Have you ever trusted someone so much that you gave them the keys to your entire existence on this earth, only to discover that they were slowly destroying everything you held dear? I am about to share the most devastating chapter of my life, a story that still makes my hands shake when I say the words. Before I dive into this nightmare, click the subscribe button if you want to hear more real stories like this. Your support means so much to me as I share these painful memories from my past. And I'm curious, where are you watching this video from? Have you ever dealt with a toxic family member who seemed nice at first glance? Tell me in the comments below, because I feel like I'm not the only one who's been through this. My name is Sarah, and 3 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to David, the love of my life, and we had just bought our dream home. His mother, Eleanor, seemed like a godsend when she offered to help us financially and even move in with us to help with household expenses. At 67, she looked frail and loving, always baking cookies and sharing her wisdom with a gentle smile. I didn't know that behind that sweet face was a master manipulator who would systematically destroy everything I had achieved over the next 2 years. Eleanor didn't just move in with us. She invaded our home like a parasite, gradually poisoning every aspect of my marriage and my mental health. It started with little things. She would rearrange things in the kitchen while I was at work, claiming she was just trying to help. When I politely asked her to leave things as they were, she would start crying and tell David that I was being cruel to an elderly woman. David, being a devoted son, always took her side. "She just wants to help, Sarah. Can't you be more understanding?" But the real manipulation began when Eleanor took control of our finances. She convinced David that, as a retired accountant, she could manage our money better than we could. Like fools, we gave her access to our joint accounts. After a few weeks, I noticed discrepancies. Money was disappearing, but when I asked about it, Eleanor always had an explanation. Urgent repairs, medical bills, investments she had made on our behalf. The psychological warfare was even worse. Eleanor would wait until David left for work, then spend hours telling me how disappointed she was in me as a wife. "David deserves so much better," she would whisper, and I could hear the false concern in her voice. "I see how you neglect him, how you don't appreciate what a wonderful man he is." She criticized everything: my cooking, my cleaning, my appearance, my career. When David came home, she turned back into the sweet grandmother, praising me to the skies while subtly undermining my self-esteem. Sarah made dinner tonight, although I had to help her a little with the seasoning. These small comments, delivered with a smile, gradually undermined David's respect for me and my self-confidence. The situation escalated when Eleanor started intercepting my mail and phone calls. Important documents mysteriously disappeared, and friends later told me they had tried to call, but Eleanor said I was too busy or not feeling well. She systematically isolated me from my support system, positioning herself as a caring mother-in-law who was worried about my mental health. The turning point came when I discovered that Eleanor had forged my signature on financial documents. She had taken out credit cards in my name, refinanced our mortgage without my knowledge, and even attempted to change the beneficiaries on David's life insurance policy. When I confronted her with the evidence, she burst into tears and told David that I was having a nervous breakdown and accusing her of terrible things. David, completely manipulated by his mother's behavior, suggested that I see a therapist. "Maybe you're just overworked," he said, looking at me with such concern that I felt betrayed. Eleanor nodded sympathetically, stroking my hand, and when David turned away, she gave me a triumphant look. That evening, I made copies of all the financial documents I could find and began gathering evidence. I discovered that Eleanor had stolen more than $80,000 from us, ruined my credit rating, and even contacted my employer, lying about my unpredictable behavior, which nearly cost me my job. The woman I had welcomed into my home with open arms was methodically destroying my life piece by piece. The evidence was irrefutable, but Eleanor had manipulated David so deeply that when I showed him the evidence, he accused me of making it all up. "You're jealous of my relationship with my mom," he said, and those words cut me deeper than any knife. "You can't accept that she sees your true self." That's when I realized that Eleanor hadn't just stolen my money, she had stolen my husband's trust, my peace of mind, and my sense of reality. There were nights when I lay awake wondering if I was going crazy, if I had misunderstood everything. The manipulation was so complete and skillfully executed that I began to doubt my own perceptions. But I refused to break down. I secretly consulted a lawyer who confirmed that Eleanor's actions constituted identity theft, document forgery, and financial abuse of an elderly person. Ironically, she was the elderly person who had been abusing our finances. The lawyer also connected me with a forensic accountant who helped track down every stolen dollar. Meanwhile, Eleanor's behavior became increasingly erratic as she sensed my resistance. She began leaving notes around the house saying that I was unstable and dangerous. She told neighbors that I had threatened her and once even called the police, claiming that I had pushed her down the stairs, a complete fabrication that nearly got me arrested. The final confrontation came on a Monday morning that I will never forget. I gathered all the evidence, bank statements, forged documents, recordings of Eleanor's threats when she thought I couldn't hear her, and statements from neighbors who had witnessed her lies. I called a family meeting with David and methodically and calmly presented all the evidence. Eleanor tried to play her usual role, tears streaming down her face, claiming that I was sick and needed help. But this time I had something she didn't expect, a recording of her admitting that she had forged my signature, bragging to someone on the phone about how easy it was to manipulate me. David turned pale when he heard his mother's voice, cold and calculating, calling me that stupid girl and laughing about how she had wrapped David around her little finger. The mask finally slipped completely, and Eleanor's true nature was revealed. "You're an ungrateful floor rag," she snarled when she realized the game was over. The frail grandmother was gone. "I raised David to be better than you. Everything I did was to protect him from the biggest mistake of his life, marrying you." David looked at his mother as if he were seeing her for the first time. The woman who had baked him cookies and sung him lullabies had systematically tried to destroy his marriage through theft, manipulation, and psychological abuse. This revelation broke something in him, but it also freed us both from her web of lies. We filed a lawsuit immediately. The following week, Eleanor was arrested on multiple counts: identity theft, document forgery, financial fraud, and stalking. At 67, she became the oldest person in our county to be convicted of such serious financial crimes. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in prison, calling her actions a deliberate and cruel assault on family trust. The trial revealed even more shocking details. Eleanor had done this before, to David's father before his death, and to her elderly neighbors. She had perfected the art of appearing helpless while systematically destroying people's lives from within. Several victims testified at the trial, describing her as a serial manipulator who preyed on family ties and trust. Recovery was not easy. David and I underwent intensive couples therapy to rebuild the trust that Eleanor had poisoned. We are still together, stronger now, but the scars remain. I have learned to trust my instincts again, to recognize manipulative tactics, and to never let anyone, family or strangers, completely control my life. Eleanor is still in prison, and we have not spoken since the trial. Sometimes I wonder if she feels any remorse, but I suspect she only regrets getting caught. David has gradually come to terms with the fact that the mother he thought was his was mostly a fabrication, a performance designed to maintain control. To anyone reading this who recognizes similar patterns of behavior in their loved ones, trust your instincts. Document everything. Seek help from professionals who understand financial abuse and manipulation. And remember, blood is not a license to destroy your life. Justice may take time, but the truth always comes out. Where are you from, and have you ever experienced similar manipulation from your family? I would love to read your stories in the comments. Sometimes realizing that we are not alone is the first step toward healing.